Thank you, Marcus. As he just said, we're now going to continue with our panel, which is going to be about the future of the collaborative economy, not collaborative consumption actually. Where is everything going? What developments can we see? And I think we have a really interesting panel with people from many different sectors. Thomas Dünnebrink, our Berlin connector, is going to moderate it. And I'd now like to welcome back onto the stage Michael Reinecke, co-founder of carpooling.com, Vincent Ricordeau, founder of Kiss Kiss Bank Bank, Melanie, or Dr. Melanie Jäger-Erben from the ZTG, the TU Berlin, a scientific researcher, and Carsten Wetzler, founder of Ecosome. Please everyone come to the front and a round of applause.
We quickly changed the seat, so I'm sitting on this side, so I'm totally confused now. No, it's fine. No, it's okay. Good. Okay, so actually what we want to do now to start a conversation, I mean, share economy, collaborative economy, lately also shareable cities, these are terms and concepts we increasingly hear reading and listening about. And we also had some aspects, different kind of aspects, examining this from our presentations before. So, but nevertheless, it's quite a fairly new phenomenon, and so therefore I'm especially happy that we have like several decades of experience here on the panel tonight, and so that we can dig deeper into the past and also get some hopefully well-founded judgment about what's currently happening in the sphere of collaborative economy, and maybe we can also dare to make a forecast into the future where collaborative economy is heading. Okay, so I mean, I want to do 4 different rounds of questions and then later open to the audience. Like the first round, I would just leave for everybody to present themselves as it's not yet happened, and also please let us know what brought you into collaborative economy, what you find fascinating about, and maybe you also have a different kind of definition what collaborative economy is. And so we'll just leave it up to you first in the first round to elaborate on that. Thank you. Michael, do you want to start with your more than 10 years of experience in ride sharing and collaborative economy? Thank you.
So, hi again. So, I'm Michael. Before, I'm CFO and co-founder of Carpooling. Maybe just one word for the founding story, because it's more than 10 years ago. And why we have invented that, of course, in these years nobody was speaking about collaborative consumption or collaborative economy. It was just a behavior people were sharing. So we were studying in Würzburg, which is a smaller city in Bavaria, and we had girlfriends also living outside of the city, and we wanted to travel there more often, of course, and we had no money. And then one day I just looked out of the window and saw so many cars and so many empty cars, empty seats in the cars traveling around. So the idea was, why didn't we feed the seats of all those available seats to one database? And people like me, like students, could find and could take the seats and travel cheap to the next city. So this was the idea. And then I sat together with some colleagues and students, and we just implemented that carpooling. And today we're 70 people. And we are linking people in important cities. So, regarding collaborative consumption, like I said, the concept of carpooling is quite old, even older than collaborative consumption. So this started in the oil crisis in the 70 years, when gas prices were so high that not so many people could afford this. So the concept of sharing is quite old, like Thomas mentioned before. We just got onto this behavior and feeling in 2001, and started it.
Hi again. I mean, the basic thing about our convincing and launching crowdfunding in France. Like 4 or 5 years ago, when we wrote Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, the sharing economy didn't exist at the time yet, and crowdfunding didn't exist either. Because in the meantime, I mean, like Celeband here in Germany and OuiShare in America were was somewhere in 2008, so we already wrote Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, the project at that time. So it is like really cloudy, and the motivation at the beginning was to give a tool to all different of artists to make sure that we can listen to new kind of artists, or to make sure that Hollywood is not, telling us exactly what we need to see when we go to the cinema, and goes on and on for every field, to make sure that creativity can be unleashed, that every one of us can has this chance to go directly to his target and to launch his project. So it was, far away from what we are exactly right now. The biggest tool of crowdfunding is to make sure that you can exist as an artist or as a creator thanks to your own community or strangers, which is giving a lot of optimism, and a viral optimism which is spreading all over the world. And by giving a tool at the beginning, we're just observing today that we are basically, and day by day, just spreading a big wave of optimism all over the place, which is of course the biggest reward that we can get from this basic idea.
I'm Melanie. I work at the Technical University in Berlin, and I'm researching since a couple of years, mostly on sustainable consumption and social innovations, and mostly concerned with the question, how does consumption routines change into something more sustainable. And we got this project that was financed by the Environmental Agency from the Environmental Ministry, where they asked us, please give us an overview of all the social innovations for sustainable consumption, and how can politics pick up this issue and maybe support the field, or different types in the field. And you couldn't avoid to bump into a collaborative consumption and sharing economy, and a lot of those innovative initiatives that are going on. So I got very interested in this issue for several reasons. First of all, it is a more positive approach towards sustainability, maybe, or it could have a great potential. And it is it has a lot of side effects of those building up communities, which increases the social capital of people, and which increases the social identity and so on. So if you look on sharing economy and collaborative consumption from a sustainability point of view, you can see a lot of potentials and a lot of interesting facts, and a very positive a positive development kind of. Mostly if you're concerned with sustainability, you always see the negative things like environmental damage and so on, and mass consumption. But this is a very positive movement, and so I'm very interested in that. And at the moment we are planning on a new project where we would like to take this concept, still very heterogeneous concept of sharing cities, and would like to develop it, research about it, and maybe also get initiatives in Berlin more concrete.
Yeah, I have my own mic, but I can share. So I'm Carsten from Ecosum. I want to ask you, who's tweeting in this room? Is there someone? What hashtag are you using?
OSEU Tour.
Okay, so OuiShare Tour. No, OS Tour. Okay. Just because I couldn't find any of you, so I'm just, because it's a conversation between all of us, so if you tweet questions to all of us, then I try to find it here. So Ecosum is a research institute that is trying to live the idea of open science, which means publishing stuff under Creative Commons license, etc. And we try to go as early as possible to our audience, to our viewers and readers, and try to discuss research with them and put our research proposals online. And we've been looking at the crowdfunding market for almost 3 years now, and we sometimes ask questions to the platforms which they like and sometimes they don't like, depending on the answer, of course. But how did I get together with collaborative consumption? Who has been a young pioneer or Thema pioneer in this audience? Come on, you're not too old, okay. I'm 33 and I was a young pioneer and Thema pioneer, and that means I grew up in East Germany. And one of the things we did there was when we were asked by our teachers to go around and collect old bottles, or to go to people and ask them to drink more beer and then collect the bottles. And then we would bring it to the recycling agency, Zero, and then we collect some East German money, and then we would send that money to fund weapons in Nicaragua. No, school material in Nicaragua. So that was my first approach to collaborative consumption. It was mostly school material.
Maybe I can keep this one and we go the other way back. So Carsten, you might start again now. Actually, I met Carsten last year. He was hosting a very interesting event, the future of crowdfunding, which was actually quite exciting. So I mean, he has like a lot of stakes somewhere. Actually, so I want to look like a little bit back in history, because you all have like many years of experience as entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, as scientists, as journalists, and so on. So actually, I want to start with a quote which I actually found in the New York Times. I think a very famous quote of Thomas Friedman, when he said, like in 2008, was when we hit the wall, when Mother Nature and the market both said no more. So 2008 he put like as a very, maybe like a turning point, a tipping point of something. Does that coincide somehow with the birth of collaborative economy somehow, or where would you set the date of this new kind of phenomena? Can you put a date on it?
Should we start?
Yeah. So it's your turn.
So I think that the collaborative economy is millions of years old. You know that in fact that the start of civilization is where people start to put their resources together and create the first settlements and so on. And I don't know, has anyone read the book Debt, the First 5,000 Years? In German it's Schulden, die ersten 5,000 Jahre by David Graeber. He's a really famous, very good book, isn't it? It takes long to get through it, but it's a really famous anarchist, and he was really much involved with the Occupy Wall Street movement, and he showed that a really important part of our human nature and of our civilization is to share resources with each other and to be indebted to each other on a social level. It means to share resources and being, I share my couch or my car with you, Thomas, and then you are obliged to give me gifts and chocolate and sweets, so on that level, and this goes much further. So I think what's really interesting now is the last 300 years, and let's look at these big cycles of innovation. That's when sharing has become difficult, because we had property was given a certain value, intellectual property, we had the rise of the patent movement and so on. So right now we are, I think, maybe 2008, maybe 2009, but certainly at the beginning of the century, the innovation cycle turns, and the innovation goes to platforms which enable, which are enabling sharing on the internet. And the question right now is the 300 years economy that we've been used to, where we have industrial mass consumption of goods, is that going to be replaced by a sharing economy? And that's why I have my doubts personally. I think that what the industrial the capitalist model of society is learning right now really quickly is to adapt the methods how the sharing economy works, and adapting it to their own way and using it as a marketing tool. And you can see out there, if you go to BMW and their carpooling model, and to Volkswagen and Citroën, all these big old giants of steel and coal, as the Internet Manifesto called it, they are using the collaborative consumption model and turning it into a marketing model. And that, I think, is the biggest threat even to the old idealistic world where the sharing economy maybe came from.
That was also very holistic view, I can say, and I can't add so much because I would also say that sharing is a very traditional thing, and it connects to a lot of traditional practices. But what is new there are no new social settings and new material arrangements that facilitate sharing, and it has also a new meaning. I mean. Before, in history, it was more you had to do it, or there was no other thing. It was the mainstream. In sociology, we say the regime that was existing, and now it is like a niche. It is something that becomes bigger, but maybe it will stay in niche. And when it changes the regimes, maybe it gets eaten up by the regimes and becomes something market based. So we don't know what happens, but I think it can connect to like traditional forms that we know and that we all did already in some parts. So I wouldn't say that there's a special beginning. Maybe it is something that people agree upon where the beginning was, and there's not like a historical date where we can say objectively there it was. We agree on something. What I am interested in is more how can it become mainstream without losing its innovative character or its potential to change current systems. And I think this is really a research question, and I really think that there is where politics come into play. I mean, I still believe in politics and that it works, kind of. I think politics have to change and have to have another role, maybe more like a facilitator and a mediator. But what we really need is something that, a statement from politics and from policymakers that they are going to support this and that they are going to save or schützen, protect. Yes. Sometimes the words. To protect also the idea of it, the potential to change systems, and I think this is. I'm hopeful with that, and we try to work also with politics and the local authorities.
But Melanie, what's going on, for example, in science? Because like lately I have a lot of inquiries of students asking me, I want to write a thesis or a paper on collaborative economy or sharing economy, like lately, like every third day. Something. So, I mean, it looks like there's something happening in academia. So I don't know, because it's, of course, I mean, you get approached to do studies, I mean, and then from politics or from where? So what's going on?
I think it's a big issue in sociology of consumption at the moment and other social sciences. And the project proposal I was talking about before is answers to a call from the Federal Ministry of Education and Research, where the title is Sustainable Economy, and I mean collaborative consumption sharing economy is every 3 lines. You can find this term, and they really want to have projects, and they really want to have applied projects. So not only look and observe what's going on and write some intelligent things about it, or more or less intelligent, but to also foster things and to also come up with initiatives and have a lot of practice partners and work together with them. So this is also our approach to really get something started and look if it works and how we can maybe upscale it without losing the character, the innovative character.
Thank you. Vincent, can you put a time label on it? The others sneaked out somehow, but do you think there is maybe some renaissance of sharing or something like this, that it makes a difference?
Yeah, but I mean, sharing always exists in humanity. We are social animals by nature. But the thing is that I don't think that 2008 is the birth of sharing economy. 2008 it's the symbol of the biggest crisis that capitalism has produced. The birth of sharing economy is social networks. I mean that all the two old industrial revolutions put ourselves in big pyramids. We were paranoiac, and we are greed, which takes place a lot of place in the society. Through social networks, we are linked to each other's with much more facilities than in real life. So it means that by getting interconnected, then you start to trust people you don't know, and as soon as you start to trust people you don't know, then the field of your community is getting bigger, and that's where sharing economy finds its place and grows so fast. So So I mean that it's really linked to the birth of a new technology which is called internet, and with a new communication which is called social networks. That's what it comes from.
So I speed up, okay. Yeah, like I mentioned, sharing is a kind of old thing. So carpoolers have been sharing since the 70s. You know, open source software people also shared much longer times before social or collaborative economics existed. So I agree to my colleagues. I think one important thing has been forgotten. It's the technological hurdles which existed before. So one is, of course, we could use the internet, which is, of course, one of the prerequisites for a collaborative economy, because you always have to build markets for stuff, for things you want to share. If I want to share something which was very seldomly used, I won't find anybody who I could lend it to. So you need platforms like couchsurfing or whatever online to make these things available to a great audience, and make things available from a great audience. So you need to build a market, and that's only possible via the internet over long distances. And I think this is a very big prerequisite for building a collaborative economy. And today as well, sharing has becoming a fashion. So if you look at YouTube, for example, every second on YouTube, 23 hours of video has been uploaded. So this also shows we like to share, and this is something which my colleague said before. This is something which started 2008, but the idea of sharing is, of course, much older.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's have a look at the status quo where we are now. I mean, because there is definitely some development, the growth and so on. So, for example, if you take a current incident, like, for example, the lawsuit of the car rental companies against the P2P car sharing platform. So, I mean, if you, for example, why are they doing it? Why are they doing it now, not before or later? I mean, if you take a famous quote maybe of Gandhi, who said, like, first they ignore you, second they laugh at you, and third they fight you, and fourth you win. So is it like that we are in the third stage of this continuum? If you look from your kind of enterprise, like, for example, in ride sharing or something like this, because it's definitely not a niche anymore.
Yeah, I think so, but it has been before like this, because when we started, there were kind of people tried to sue us, like, I don't know whether I'm allowed to say the name, but there's a great, very big rail company in Germany. There's so many. It's also in Berlin. And they tried to sue everybody who sold group tickets of this company on platforms. So, you know, there are Bayern ticket or maybe also Berlin ticket, where you could use 5 people could share one ticket. And of course, the idea was nobody will find 5 people who are traveling the same direction, the same way, the same date. So then people made this available on the internet, and by coincidence, 5 people were found, and they could share the tickets. So this was not on the idea of the marketing people of this company. So of course they tried to object and fight against this. Spoken for carpooling, I think this time is over now. We're one of the biggest partners of Deutsche Bahn, because we are also selling Deutsche Bahn tickets. This also applies to bus carriers and to alternative mobility.